7 reasons not to move to Denmark. If anyone advises you not to move to Denmark, never see that person as an enemy of your progress. In the same vein, if someone goes all the way to convince you to go to Denmark, please don't be so quick to key into that. It might just be that Denmark isn't the right country for you. To be sure, the Nordic country isn't at all among the worst in the world. On a scale of fair ranking, it should be among the top best, at least in Europe. Yet there are dark sides to living in Denmark which shouldn't be ignored. This video will show at least 7 reasons not to move to Denmark. They're surely highly instructive. 7. Not for highly ambitious people. The first of the reasons not to move to Denmark is that the place is not for an ambitious person. If you're a highly ambitious person, you better think twice. The reason is that the country is an egalitarian society. It's part of the country's national character. In this country, you aren't expected to make a lot of money in this country. You're not better than anyone else in the country. So the question on the minds of many is, why would you aspire to achieve greatness in this country when you cannot be celebrated as an achiever? This is one of the dark sides of living in Denmark. It's in their national character that no Dane is no more Dane than another Dane in Denmark. This is involved in the whole concept called the Gentile Logan. It means that the country will not be conducive for any overachiever, overambitious people. People in this country might lose some of their motivation. Well, you don't have to be indolent and slothful. You just have to note here that in this country, teamwork matters. 6. High cost of living. We'll tell you more about this later in the video. However, it is good to let you know that you can't enjoy living in Denmark if you're not prepared to maintain a kind of high cost of living. It's good to reconsider your decision to move to Denmark. One big reason not to move to Denmark is its high cost of living. The reason for this high cost of living isn't far-fetched. In Denmark, the standard of living is covetously high. Healthcare and education standards are top-notch. Security, agriculture, health and technology are given the best attention. To enjoy such a high standard, you must be prepared to pay a lot more. 5. Limited job opportunities. Denmark is surely not among the countries with the highest unemployment rates. No, it has yet to record any challenge with unemployment. Nevertheless, moving to Denmark, you won't have the guarantee of landing your dream job as you would in the US, Canada, France or even in UAE. And why is that so? Haven't we been told that there are enough job placements in Denmark? Oh, that's for the most part, or to an extent, illusory. While there are so many job positions, it is not so for those who don't speak Danish. Speakers of English, French, German, Italian and other international languages have to deal with this issue of limited job opportunities. Again, this is a big con of living in Denmark. For your information, this applies to you if you move to any country whose language you don't speak. It's more pronounced in Denmark because Danish is not an international language, so you can't learn the language perfectly outside the country. It is unlike French that you can learn anywhere, even in Africa, before moving to France. This language barrier makes it extremely difficult for non-natives to get a job. The expats just live in this country and get by with whatever is available to them. Another reason for limited job opportunities in Denmark is that it's not a big country. The country has a total area of 42,943 square kilometers. That's about the size of Virginia, the 35th largest state in the US. Now, how much jobs does such a small economy support? That's why the country simply has a very small job market. With a population of about 6 million, it can be considered densely populated with more pressure on the job market. All these put together give you another reason not to move to Denmark. 4. High taxes. Now let's talk about tax and see another one of the reasons not to move to Denmark. We don't need to be convinced that the rate of tax in Denmark is quite high. If you're not used to paying such taxes in your country, you've got to think twice before moving to Denmark. This is not as easy as stated and can't just be analysed easily. As a country with one of the highest tax rates in the world, some earners in the country pay as much as 60% of their income as tax. It's almost impossible to evade tax in Denmark. Any attempt to do so will be met with serious sanctions. Meanwhile, the more your income, the higher you pay. The gap between the rich and poor is being blurred by high tax rates to ensure that the country remains egalitarian. 3. Nature is not diverse. Moving on, lovers of nature will have more reasons not to move to Denmark because nature is not diverse in this geographical entity. If you've been fantasizing about the possibility of enjoying nature in this country, it's high time you woke up from your daydream. There are no mountains in this country. Everywhere is flat. There's nothing like winter sports, such as skiing. We're told the natural highest peak in Denmark is the place called Mollehøj, which is just about 170.86 meters above sea level. While there are a couple of hills, they're not quite high enough to attract tourists, either local or international. So if you want to enjoy skiing or some kind of nature sports, either Sweden or Norway is your best destination or only to-go places. There is a place called Open Hill. There is another complex, Healing. But visiting the place over and over again can get all pretty fast. 2. Very expensive. Another one of the reasons not to move to Denmark is that the country is very expensive. This is due to the fact that the cost of living here is high, as we've discussed earlier. This is especially true in the big cities like Copenhagen. The main factor jacking up the cost of living in this country is that it's a highly taxed country. Recall that we've earlier found that it is one of the countries with the highest tax rates in the world. In fact, some earners in the country pay as much as 2/3 of their income as tax. Due to the expensive nature of this country, it can be a bit difficult to save money, especially those who are not used to paying such high taxes in the countries they came from. Though the standard of living in this country is high, that doesn't go without a high cost. When you have to pay more for necessities such as groceries, utilities, transportation and medicals, you won't enjoy living in this country. You can learn more about this in our video about the pros and cons of living in Denmark. 1. Cold and dark. The final and the most important of these 7 reasons not to move to Denmark has to do with its weather and climatic conditions. Denmark is cold and dark. This is more pronounced during winter. The winters in this country can be quite long, dark and cold, which some may find difficult to adjust to. It's not as if it's the coldest or darkest country. The challenge is the length of these conditions. It is a country with very long darkness and cold combined. Living in Denmark, you can expect it to be cold for 6 months, from October to March. Now, if you don't care about the cold, what about the darkness? You can add the challenges of rain and wind to the prevailing circumstances during this period. If you're not comfortable having a winter jacket and scarf on for a long period, Denmark is not a country for you. This same situation applies to those who love to be outdoors all the time, in parks and the like. Now, if you add this to the dense darkness that dominates November and December, you'll see reasons not to move to Denmark. Conclusively, it is good to state that despite these cons of moving to Denmark, some people feel that they are cool with Denmark. What about you? Kindly share your thoughts. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell.